Was Superman 3 harder to do because not only are you playing Clark Kent, but you're also playing a good and a bad Superman?
Yeah, it's. I suppose it took me a while to get going again. You know, when you lay off something for a long period of time, you have to sort of get up for it again. And I found that being willing to take on the physical training and commit to something for that long a period of time took concentration. But once I was there, I feel that I've approached the part with the same kind of willingness and even eagerness that I brought to the first one. It wasn't a case of sequelitis, where you sort of take the money and show up and said, what, over there? Okay. No, I was into it, and I feel that sequence where Superman confronts himself is one of the richest parts of the movie. It's slightly surreal and even a bit scary. But we did on such a long period of time. You know, I did all the Clark Kent stuff at one time and then all the evil Superman at another time. I didn't have any real anxiety attack or psychological crisis while I was making it.
Tell me about the physical regimen that you have to keep to prepare for Superman. You don't do the physical regimen when you're not about ready to prepare for a Superman movie?
Every time I'm doing a movie that's not Superman, I have to be somebody thin. I would like to play a fat person when I'm not doing Superman, because I keep doing these movies like Death Trap and stuff. For Death Trap, I had to be sort of, you know, gaunt and very mad looking, and I'm about to do another movie where I'm just 5 years after the Civil War in the South, and no one was eating very well at that time. Yes, when I'm doing Superman, it's the first thing you have to do is anything that's going by on your plate, stick a fork in it, and then go to the gym and work it off and pump up with muscles. And now what I do is more aerobic kind of stuff, racquetball 3 times a week, you know, a lot of bike training, you know, trying to slim down.
When not preparing for a Superman movie, do you keep up these exercises?
No, I hate
pump iron.
I think a bunch of sweaty guys looking in the mirror going like that is really vain. I don't know. It doesn't. And I think in the long run, it's better to do things for your heart. You know, like fall in love and ride a bike.
And the aerobics are better for that.
Yeah, but breathing and stuff is. I don't think muscles are really necessary.
In Superman 3, you look more muscular. Are you?
Oh, yeah?
Or maybe it's because I was sitting too close to the screen. I was there last night in the 3rd row. Well, that's Roberta about my seating. I don't. Maybe have you been?
How's your neck today?
Yeah, it's like I'm fine. I don't know why you asked. Are you more muscular? Do you feel that you're different than you were the first time?
I'm probably just fat. No, I'm in the middle of dropping the weight, but I find that as long as I look reasonably that size and it says S right here, that's half the work, you know, and the rest is enthusiasm.
Now the stunt work. I remember in the first one, there was a crane shot. I looked to me 250, 300 feet over the East River, and you did it. Take your breath away to think about it. Do you still do all your own stunt work? Or do the insurance people go crazy?
See, my problem is I don't think of the flying as stunt work. See, I fly, but I don't do stunt work. You know? So it's gotten very matter of fact. In fact, one of the things we were trying for on this film was to make it so casual that you don't even notice it. Whereas the whole media campaign on Superman 1 is, you'll believe a man can fly. This one is, you won't even notice a man is flying. So that he just, well, yes, you know, I've got to go, and he's out the window. And I had something to do with the flying this time. Dick Lester very kindly would come over and say, well, what do you think? What have we got here, and which way do you want to go, and this, that, and the other, and where can we put the camera? So it's a real collaboration. He does not have any ego problem at all about having to be the big cheese, and I think that this throwaway, underplayed level of heroics is something that appeals to me, and I think also the audience likes.
In these times, do we have to underplay the hero? Just by the way that times have changed, and also perhaps my end of the business and media has exposed a lot of so-called heroes who weren't.
Yeah, there's a great deal of what the butler saw these days. You know, you try to pose as a hero, and then some valet or a chauffeur will write a little thing. This guy did not only these things, but he did the others too. And it's a kiss and tell kind of atmosphere. Gossip really runs today. But that's sort of a sidetrack. I just feel that with the I think more advanced understanding, hopefully, between men and women, that we don't have to quite stand on a rock and prove our masculinity, and women don't have to be domesticated. And you know, we've reached that time now, fortunately, in 1983, that you can sort of be a hero without showing it. That a real hero is not blustery, macho, pseudo John Wayne. That he's somebody with a romantic soul who can make contact with somebody and who can really care. And I try to make Superman somebody who reaches out and does it all fairly effortlessly. You know, I don't want to be a reserved hero. It's like, I'm cool, and if you're real lucky and keep your mouth shut, you can come with me for a while until I get bored of you, which is the way it always used to be, you know. The woman was allowed to hang around as long as she wasn't a nuisance, whereas the real bonding was between the two men, you know, me and my buddy, our horse, and okay, you can come. But I don't know, I guess I'm much more, much more naive. Maybe as a person, and certainly as a hero. I'm just not impressed by grandstanding.
Was that your idea from the very beginning, to play him in that way?
Yeah, I saw that as a real opportunity in the script. That sort of hands-on hip cake billowing in the wind and stuff, that strikes me as dull, you know? Once you've done that, then you have nothing else to do. Whereas I try to keep the audience wondering what's going to happen next, and sort of maybe charmed by his throwaway style, and I think it's worked. All three pictures are different. I mean, part 3 has a totally different intention than the other two. It's much more tongue-in-cheek satire, really, of what happens if Superman gets mixed in with real life. Previously, we've had outer space, explosion of Krypton, stopping a nuclear warhead, I mean, or a bomb that goes off in Paris. Here, it literally starts on a matchbook cover, an unemployed man. And then it moves to a woman bringing up a child by herself, a 30-year-old former star who's now drinking, the threat of the computer monster over our shoulder. And what happens if Superman gets mixed up in everyday life? Sometimes that's funny, sometimes it's moving, but it deliberately stays here in the real world.
Yes, I see. You can't keep Superman frozen with 1940s values.
No.
And expect the 1983 audience.
Now then it becomes
buy
really,
that.
really a joke, you know. But what I try to do is restore certain words, certain values to their original meaning, and that as juxtaposed to the cynicism of today, so that I could actually stand out there and say truth and justice and the American way, and mean it. Because if you go back to the original intention of those words, it's not laughable. It's only the changing times that make those ideas laughable.
There's a scene on top of the crown of the Statue of Liberty with one of the female characters in the movie, and
Very female.
very female.
That line of yours in this scene, I don't do that anymore.
Right. Right.
Which had me.
Out of business. Right. Start gone fishing. Right.
Can we apply that line, and will you apply that line to the rest of your career as it regards having done Superman?
Down the line when you're through with the Superman
no.
saga, I don't do that
Listen,
anymore.
I will never become cynical about having played this part. I mean, this part was a gold mine for me. I'm not talking just about money in the bank. I'm talking about opportunity and critical reaction and reception in the business. The fact that I managed to make this a performance rather than just a media blitz, you know, unknown becomes a star. It was perceived as a performance by people that I really respect, and that I think that will stand. And I'm just too, I guess I'm just not that cynical. I can't ever put it down. I mean, these 3 movies have been a real achievement in special effects filmmaking, in the idea of the hero, the whole thing. But I think you must quit before it becomes sort of diluted into television fare. You know, it mustn't become episodic. I think these 3 pictures were original, and to quit while you're ahead, really. But I won't ever look back to that. I don't do that anymore. I've gone past that. It's a wonderful chapter of my life that, you know, like other chapters, high school, college, drama school, Broadway, they have a nice place along the train track of life.
I want that in the needle.
Right. Oh, God, this man can really make a metaphor, huh?
Is that your way, Christopher, of telling us that this is it, number 3, and you're done? You won't be doing any more Superman movies?
You feel your commitment to the series is over, and you.
What are you going to do? I mean, I've already flown, fallen in love, stopped time, prevented World War III, and fallen in love. What are you going to do for an encore? You know? You can settle down at Mary Lois Lane, move to Westchester, and drive a station wagon to Little League. Sorry, it just doesn't work.
Now, wait a minute, Chris. I live in
Works for
Westchester,
everybody
and
else.
I
Why
have a
not you?
station wagon, and I'm offended by that.
Given all the special effects in Superman 3, it must be difficult to play against a blank screen or just a blank post rather than opposite a real actor.
Well, I asked Richard Dreyfuss about that because he just finished doing Close Encounters when I was on Superman 1. I said, what was that like? He spent 6 months going, what was that? You know, and then later they put the spaceship in over his head. You know, I'll never forget the take in which he did that, and it looked really believable when he did it too. However, yeah, but that's the challenge: is now fill in the blanks, put in your imagination what's there. So when I'm flying, I can be stuck on a wall someplace, but I have in my mind's eye where I'm going, and you know, the World Trade Center's over there in the East River, and there's a tugboat, and this is the temperature, and this is how fast I'm going, and it's just called being in a sensory state, if you want to borrow the actor's studio jargon for it, which is simply, you must not die on the vine. Anytime an actor is not tingling with sensory awareness, the audience picks up on that immediately and tunes out. And the actor's tuned out, audience tunes right out. But I've been able, I think, to stay alive in these special effects sequences by my own love of flying and my own care about acting, that you mustn't regard that stuff as being less valid than the speaking parts.
I don't think some of the critics can understand just how difficult it is to perform in these kinds of movies.
Yeah, I think I've been really well treated. I mean, in these
You
films,
have.
you know?
Some of the other people doing it haven't.
I don't know. I think it's perceived as a performance, you know, that, you know, caution, actor at work, you know, and you know, like those road signs. And can I see a dramatic license, please? But yes, no, I have never felt as somehow invalid or that I'm just taking up space. You know, I've always felt somehow that I'm busy doing something worthwhile. They just take a long time.
Richard Pryor is famous for ad-libbing his way through a lot of movies.
Does he ad-lib a lot in this movie, or does he have to stick to the script?
It's the script is good enough. Well, the first thing is, the hook here is, how are you going to put Richard Pryor and Superman in the same movie? I mean, that's an interesting, tantalizing concept, and they've managed to pull it off, I think, with a very fine balance between us, so that he doesn't steal the picture and I don't upstage him. You know, we share, and it was that way working as well. But I think Pryor's particular brand of genius is this. His technique is very solid, but it looks mad. It looks totally out of control. But he knows exactly where he's going. You'll get a few takes. He'll try something. He won't ever do the same thing twice. And every now and again you see, whoops, we lost him. He went out this way. Here he comes back again. Okay, well, we let off that way. You know, and you have to be ready, if you're working with him, to go on these little trips with him. Don't dish him up the same stuff every time. So that generally, like, you'll go about 3 takes or 4 takes. 3 will be weird, and 1 will be brilliant. You know, sometimes more than 1.
You must be ready then to go with him and to be
Flexible enough to do it.
If you're uptight, you're going to sink immediately. But my whole training, my whole background is improv, is winging it. And I ad-lib a lot, too. I've noticed I take some pride in my major ad-lib. One of my ad-libs in this film has become key in the trailer. I'm flying with Richard Pryor, and he didn't know much about the special effects or anything. But I could see from the television monitor, the corner of my eye, that we were coming over a little forest, right? And so I could watch the trees, and he kept going, and that was used I thought it was a throwaway, you know. But they use that stuff, as long as it's inventive and funny and cooking along, and I made up that line about I don't do that anymore, too.
That's your line?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
A
you
lot
ought to
of it
get
is.
screen credit for that.
And
That's one of the best lines.
One of the things I'm really one of the good gags that I like in this film is Clark Kent dancing. I had 2 choices. How does Clark Kent dance? Either it's like really square dancing school time, or he goes absolutely mad. I decided he goes mad, but while he's dancing mad, they change the record to a slow tune, and he doesn't hear it, so he's left boogieing, and oops, you know, one of those. Just little bits like that Dick Lester can say, yeah, if he sees it cooking, like any good director, he'll use it.
Is Clark Kent more fun to play than Superman?
Well, I tried something different. It's a roundabout answer, but I tried something different with Clark this time, which is that he goes back to his 15th high school reunion, and he meets this really smashing girl, played by Annette O'Toole. He meets Lana Lang. Now, if he's really a bumbling moron who smashes into walls and keeps doing this with his glasses all the time, she's not going to be interested. And so what I've done is I've dropped out of the shtick to a certain extent, and that, remember, this kid grew up on a farm, you know, he used to run his dog and bale hay and ride horses and stuff. Only when he went to the city did he put on this stumbling act. So I tried for a thing. They didn't really have time in the movie to use as much of it as we actually did. But what happens if Clark Kent sort of lets go a little bit? And every now and again, I'll drop out of that voice and just say something real direct to her, like, "Gee, that's too bad," or "Nice to see you," or something that's like away from all the study. And because by contrast, it then weighs something. So
I also
it's a
felt
slightly
that-
different Clark.
I noticed that, and I felt that part of your thinking might have been, look,
Clark has been working on a big-time newspaper for a long time, and some of the sophistication must have rubbed off.
some little bit of metropolis sophistication, or at least the not knowing how to not stumble into the manhole.
I still love Jackie Cooper's line. In my 40 years in the business, he is the fastest typist I've ever seen. You know,
That's right.
Superman with a word processor.
Christopher, I read that a couple of years ago you turned down the role in American Gigolo. Why?
I just didn't think it was
The
for
image
me.
of it didn't appeal to you.
No,
the
as you
subject
can
matter.
well, as you can see from the work I actually do, I'm not really too worried about image. I do all kinds of strange things, but I just didn't like that script. You know, one thing I didn't do body heat because I didn't think I'd be believable as this particular brand of small town lawyer. And Bill Hurt played the part, and he was great. I just didn't think I could handle it. You have to have a sense of what's going to work and what's not. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you're wrong. But I make those decisions independent of my association with Superman. See, everybody else, I mean, typecasting is something that happens outside you. It has very little to do with who you are as a performer. You know, because I'm only on the inside looking out, and I just see it a whole different way. So I don't get up in the morning and measure the difference between this new piece of work and Superman. I just take each decision one at a time.
Are there any trends in movies today that you don't like?
A tendency to sort of force entertainment down people's throats at the expense of good filmmaking sometimes. You know, like, got to hit that youth market, you know. Now, that works for some movies, but not for others. I mean, some movies should be for 12-year-olds. Superman is one of them, but not all movies are for 12-year-olds. And there's a tendency to panic. You know, we got to make money here, and who spends? The kids spend. Adults stay home and watch television. Kids are out spending. But that's just, it's too bad, because some films can't be bent, can't be distorted for that commercial reason, and yet that's happening to a great extent. I admire people like Hugh Hudson, who goes off and makes Chariots of Fire. Says, well, I really hope they like it in America, but if they don't, that's tough, you know. But he doesn't jazz it up to reach a market segment. You know, people like that, I hope, will continue to lead the business.
Yes, I think you're right. There is a danger that there will be fewer movies like Kramer versus Kramer and Ordinary People.
I
Given
don't
the
know which
trend.
way we're going, but
Well,
certainly in
with
the
your
summer,
movie and Return of the Jedi and whatever, it's the trend seems
you
to
know,
be.
it's become impossible to release a so-called serious film between May and October, you know? And that's too bad. I would have thought should be a time you could bring out any movie anytime, right? You know, but it's not. There's a whole marketing strategy, and I don't know.
You said the key
I'm
word.
just the actor. I'm not supposed to know these things.
Several years ago, you said that as an actor, you did not want to be any more successful than you are skilled.
I'll stand by that. Good. I found a quote I don't have to retract. But yes, there's nothing you can do to rush the level of your growth, but you can become famous very quickly. And
As you did.
Yeah, and there's generally a mandatory 1-year period when you confuse the two. Anybody who becomes famous quickly, I think, goes out to lunch for about a year. Some people never come back. But if you do stay sane, you realize that, you know, you can go zipping up the success ladder, but you can only plod up the skill ladder, and you mustn't confuse them. You got to decide what you want too. If you just want to be famous, well, that's one thing. But if you want to last, I think you have to keep working, you know, in the right sort of way.
At what point, and I'm sure it was right after Superman 1, did you realize that you had lost your anonymity forever and that your life had changed?
Yeah. I used to live on Upper West Side, I still do, but on another block, in a 5th floor walk-up. And Warner Brothers would start sending limousines. And I'd come out, you know, the garbage is out front like it is everywhere in New York. And some of my out-of-work actor friends live on the same block. And out of sheer embarrassment, I used to ask the limo to wait around the corner at the Alden, which is a little more tonier, and I would sort of come out, sneak up the street, and get in a limo and drive away. One day, an actor friend caught me doing that, and he says, "You hypocrite! Don't you think we're happy for you? Get in a limousine and drive away and do it for us, okay?" And I knew that it was okay to go ahead and be famous.
That's nice of him to,
Yeah,
to
wasn't
do.
that nice?
That was a nice
Oh,
thing
stop
to
eating
say.
humble pie. Stop pretending they're not sending limos. Go do it, you know? Your number came up, and that's fine. There's a false modesty you have to avoid, as well as being too egocentric.
Yes, that was a very generous thing
Yeah.
for him to do, or for her to do, or whoever it was. Years ago, you played on Broadway with Katharine Hepburn. Did she give you any good advice? Did she have a method of acting or working that you admired?
Well, yeah. I mean, she had one great there was one commandment. You know, for the rest of us, there's 10, but for her, there's one commandment, which is be fascinating. Be fascinating. So, well, that's easy for you. I mean, the rest of us have to work at it. You know, get out here and tap dance. I mean, what do we do? And by that she meant is don't get mushy. The ultimate put down is that someone is mushy, which means muddled thinking, lack of ambition, lack of concentration, poor motivation, bad diet, and not enough fresh air. In that order. And she's just, comes through like a tornado. I mean, opening windows, not only actually, but sort of metaphorically as well. And when you've been picked to play her grandson in a play, it is basically more than just a play. For that moment in time, you're really expected to rise up to that level. And I was thrilled by that. I mean, that she'd bother with me. That she would bother. I mean, I was 22, right out of Juilliard, my first really big job. And she cared, and she took the time with me. She said, "Don't apologize for yourself. You have a habit of apologizing for yourself. Don't do it. Hold your head up. Be there. They want to see you. Do it." I mean, this whole acting with certainty, whereas many people today come on and, in a way, act against themselves. And I really don't say it's an effort to draw this out. It's like, come on, just you've got something, use it. I don't know. She was dynamite.
Sounds like good advice.
Yeah, but it's also that acting and living go together. And she's also said, don't think that acting is a way to hide. Acting is a way to reveal. Show the people who you are. Show them what you care about. And you see with Katharine Hepburn, the line between acting and living is indeterminate, and you hardly know where she stops and the character takes over. She is always Katharine Hepburn and always the character at the same time. I mean, and that's real star quality. And I used to think that acting was hiding. Well, I'm not me now. I'm safe. I'm this other person. But that's baloney. You're always yourself. You always are. You're yourself plus whatever worldview you need to change to be this other person. But bring. Don't hide.